Okay, so here we go. A quick reminder, just it's Wednesday. I'm just going to spend a few minutes practicing something that will hopefully help us get better at this thing called being human. And I have a very human story to tell. I think it was yesterday that I mentioned that I was going in for my MRI, right? I have some weird cardiac arrhythmias, and so it's kind of a big deal. This is, scheduling this thing and doing it. And it's in Mission Bay, which is a pretty good commute for me. And I missed it. I missed my appointment, meaning I got there, and as I was parking, they were calling me saying, "Hey, where are you? We're waiting. You're late." I said, I know, I got caught up in traffic and this, that, and the other thing. And so there I was sort of running through the hallway, having parked my car, and in the elevator, they're basically calling me saying, look, you missed your appointment. So as I was extremely frustrated, as any of you can probably imagine, this was an amazing opportunity for me to practice. So what I've been preaching here, which is I noticed my inner critic just going bananas, very, very judgmental, lots of doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, you spent all this time setting up this appointment and now you missed it. And now what? And then I was on the phone with the schedulers, and we're receiving a lot of calls right now. Give us your number, we'll call you back. And they never did call me back. And long story short, I had this beautiful yet pretty stressful moment where I really came into contact with my own flawed humanity and the nature of my mind. And then I just kept thinking to myself, Ollie, this is where it all happens. So the theme for today, in terms of growing temporary states into permanent traits, that was me in that moment saying, okay, this happened. Now what? You can either go nuts and go along with your inner critic, which just kind of started happening on its own. It wasn't really me trying to do anything, or I could see the moment for what it was and just acknowledge that, yeah, this sucks. This is not what you intended. And you put all this effort into driving into the city, and you paid money for gas and parking and this, that, and the other thing. And anyway, there it is. And I wanted to share all of that with you just as a reminder. There's something about humility and courage that's required in order to do this being human thing that oftentimes is really underrated. Okay, so today's theme is the inner critic. We all have one. We all have one that was installed in us, not through our own doing. We are truly hapless, innocent victims in this process. So it's as our nervous system is developing when we're infants and toddlers and school age and so forth, these are all things that are happening to us, and the explanatory style that our mind uses to make sense of things that go wrong is what I would label the inner critic. Because for most of us, it is extremely judgmental and extremely critical. And I had a front row seat yesterday to my own inner critic, who was just being pretty abusive. And the good news is we can practice getting better at being kinder and gentler and more understanding and more compassionate and all of that good stuff. So one technique that I would like to share with you here comes from one of my teachers, Tara Brach. She's a wonderful meditation teacher, made a huge difference in my life when I was really struggling. And I remembered this process, which she calls RAIN. So RAIN is an acronym, and it stands for the following. It stands for a really step-by-step process to engage with when you are in the grips of whatever negativity, inner critic, whatever's going crazy right now for you, to see if you can just remember RAIN. And then remember, RAIN stands for recognize. Step number one is to simply recognize that this is happening. right? So often our mind wants to reject or push away or deny or what have you. And the first step is just to say, no, this is really happening. Like you really missed your MRI appointment and you really drove all the way in and now you have to drive all the way back home in traffic. And like this is really happening. So be an adult, recognize that this is happening. Then allowing has to do with allow the thoughts and the emotions and the sensations, allow them to happen. The more we resist them and the more we push them away and say, I don't want to feel angry, I don't want to feel frustrated, the more, there's a saying, what we resist persists. So allowing is all about counteracting that. It's just, yeah, this sucks. My heart feels heavy. I feel frustrated. I have tears in my eyes. I'm going to allow all of this to happen. And then investigate has to do with get curious and be brave and drop into exploring what happened. And it goes all the way from the mechanics of, well, you could have left earlier, but you didn't, all the way through to why is this so upsetting to you? Like what is the underlying narrative that's happening there? And then the last step is nurture. So then drop into a place after you recognize, allowed whatever's happening, gotten curious, then it's time to just put your hand on your heart and nurture and say, I got you. It's okay. Like these things happen. This is part of being human. It's okay. So I thought let's spend a few minutes today practicing this process of rain. So start by closing your eyes and let's together drop into this moment. So right here, right now, as far as I can tell, we're safe, we are dry, we have probably had something to eat or maybe something to drink. We're doing okay right now, mostly. And just let's acknowledge that just for a few seconds. Appreciating that we can be together, sitting in a chair, and taking just a few moments to do something good for ourselves. We're taking care of ourselves. Now, if you can, bring up a memory of the kind of situation that I just described to you. One of these situations where things are going wrong and the inner critic is running rampant. There's lots of things to say. Oftentimes it sounds like you always, you never. This is typical. And see if you can bring that moment back to life. There you are, doing your thing, feeling hurt, frustrated, angry, helpless, probably a little bit scared. And let's start just by recognizing that this is happening. Yes, you really are in this situation. We'll explore in a second why this happened, how it happened. But step number one is really just as an adult, is to step into that situation and say, yeah, my feet are wet right now. I'm experiencing anger and frustration. I'm unable to get into where I thought I needed to get into. I'm unable to communicate with this person in a way that I thought I needed to, or whatever it might be for you. Just recognize that this is actually happening. It's very important to be real. And then closely linked to recognizing is allowing. And this really refers to emotions, feelings, sensations in your body, and most certainly also thoughts. Like, allow them. Truth is, there's not much you can do to push them away or deny them. They're going to do what they're going to do. So there's a big, bold, courageous move in leaning into them and saying, okay, I'm going to allow this feeling of anger or frustration or fear. I'm not going to push it away. Allow it. And I notice for me, as I think back to standing in the elevator on my phone with my parking ticket in hand, allowing all of those thoughts and sensations to happen, I can already feel my nervous system relaxing. Yep, this is what's happening right now. It's okay. I felt angry and upset before. I can handle it right now. Now, the third step is investigate. And investigate can happen on several different levels. One is first just look at the logistics of how you got into the situation that you're in. Because oftentimes when we're in a victim mindset, our finger is pointing out, oh, it was the traffic. Oh, if only those people would have done this, or I had no idea there was going to be construction on that part of the road. How was I supposed to know? Right. So there's this narrative that we draw up, and investigating is really getting curious about, okay, is that really why this happened? Like, could you have left earlier? Is it really other people's fault that you didn't make it on time? Is it really true that they should be making an exception for you in this case because you made this long drive, and how could they and shouldn't they, and fill in the blank? So investigating has to do with really sort of putting on our adult shoes and stepping in and saying, okay, let me really get real with what my narrative is and how this happened. So the logistics, the narrative, my underlying beliefs. And in some ways, recognizing, allowing, and investigating, again, it takes courage, and it can feel kind of harsh. So the last step is about nurturing. So I like to put my hand on my heart. Welcome to join me if you want. And now the step is to nurture and to say, yeah, I recognize what happened. I'm allowing the sensations, the feelings, the thoughts. I'm not fighting them. In fact, I'm willing to investigate and get curious. Exactly happened? What can I learn? And all of that's fine and good, but without softness or the compassion to nurture and say, Ollie, this sucks. This hurts. This is frustrating. All of it. I got you. You're okay. And hand on heart or even hand on face, these are tried and tested mechanisms for stimulating the vagal nerve. So you can play around with even just feeling the warmth of the palm of my hand on my cheek, contact with my chest. It has a actual neurologic stimulus that is calming and nurturing. Nurturing is where we give ourselves a break. Has to do with self-respect, kindness. And then go ahead and take a deep breath in. On this exhale, go ahead and open your eyes. Come on back to the session. We're a little bit over time. Hope this was helpful. I always try to make these sessions as personally relevant as possible so that it's real and authentic. It's not me trying to, I don't know, teach some esoteric conceptual stuff. And there's me sort of bumping into life and stumbling along. And I hope it's, yeah, I hope it's helpful. So take care, everyone. I'll stick around for a few more minutes if you want to hang out.